Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into a rumor that honestly sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood spy thriller. But it actually has massive implications for that device sitting in your pocket right now. We're talking about the wild, alarming idea that your smartphone could be completely compromised by nothing more than an incoming phone call. It's a burning question, right? You look down at your phone, you see a missed call from some bizarre international number, and a tiny voice in your head goes, "Wait a second. Did just receiving that call give a hacker access to my device?" It is a totally valid concern in our hyper-connected world. To really get the answer, we need to take a look under the hood at how different types of phone calls actually work. So the core difference here comes down to how these calls are processed. Traditional cellular voice calls, they're fundamentally designed just to transmit audio data over dedicated network channels. Because they strictly process audio, they just aren't built to execute computer code. So a direct hack through a traditional call is highly improbable. But then you have voice over IP or VoIP calls. Think WhatsApp or FaceTime. These rely heavily on complex data packets being sent over the internet. And that completely changes the security game. Now, of course, even a traditional audio call can be dangerous, just, not to the phone's software itself. The real threat there is social engineering. Attackers use tactics like phishing, literally voice phishing. They spoof a trusted caller ID, maybe pretend to be your bank, and basically manipulate you into handing over sensitive info or passwords. So in that scenario, the call didn't inject malware, but the human holding the phone, they got hacked. But the truly terrifying reality of modern mobile spyware is that human error isn't even required anymore. Enter the zero-click exploits. It's exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about an advanced cyber attack that compromises a device without any user interaction whatsoever. You literally don't click a link, you don't download a sketchy app, and get this, you don't even have to answer the phone. So how on earth is a zero-click attack even possible? Well, we have to look at how modern messaging apps function. Karsten Knoll, a chief scientist at Security Research Labs, sums it up perfectly. He says, the more complex the data parsing, the more room for error. Apps like WhatsApp or iMessage are constantly priming themselves to receive and interpret incredibly complex data. They have to prepare the interface just in case you decide to answer or decline a VoIP call. This constant state of readiness leaves tiny, microscopic gaps in the code for hackers to slip right through. And one of the most common ways hackers exploit those little gaps is through something called a buffer overflow. Think of an app's memory buffer like a holding pen for incoming data. What an attacker does is strategically send an overwhelming amount of complex data that's specifically formatted to be way too large for that holding pen. The data literally overflows into other sensitive parts of the phone's memory. This basically gives the attacker a foothold to force their own malicious code into the system. When you see how this plays out in the real world, like with the infamous 2019 WhatsApp breach, it is honestly chilling how invisible it is. Here's what happens. An attacker initiates a VoIP call. But before the user even has a chance to answer it, those complex data packets trigger a buffer overflow in the background. Spyware is silently installed, and then, this is the crazy part, the malicious code actually deletes the missed call from the call log. Absolutely zero trace of the infection. Naturally, as app developers rushed to patch those VoIP bugs, attackers simply found new doors to kick down. Fast forward a bit to 2021, researchers at the Citizen Lab uncovered the forced entry exploit. This was a sophisticated zero-click attack that successfully bypassed the modern mobile defenses of Apple's iOS, macOS, and watchOS. It really showcased just how incredibly advanced these threats have become. What's super fascinating here is the exact forensic artifact that was left behind on an infected device. Researchers found these specific files tucked away in a Saudi activist's phone. Now, they had a .gif extension, so the phone treated them as harmless, looping, animated images. But actually, scratch that. They weren't GIFs at all. They were maliciously crafted PDF and Adobe PSD files specifically designed to quietly crash the phone's image rendering systems. Here's exactly how forced entry achieved total compromise. When the victim received a message with these fake GIFs, Apple's core graphics library automatically tried to render them in the background. This triggered what's called an integer overflow, basically a math error in the code, which allowed the attackers to execute arbitrary code. The phone was completely infected, and the user never even saw a single notification. No way to know what happened. This represents a rapid and frankly alarming escalation. Think about it. In just a few short years, we went from 2016's one-click iOS hacks to the alleged zero-click WhatsApp video attack on Jeff Bezos in 2018, followed by that WhatsApp missed call bug in 2019. And then by 2021, forced entry was easily circumventing entirely new security architectures like Apple's Blast Door. So, it begs the question, who is building these incredibly complex, multi-million-dollar exploits? Well, it's not some teenager in a basement. It is the mercenary spyware industry. Private intelligence firms employ some of the world's absolute best software engineers to find these zero-day vulnerabilities and weaponize them. Companies like Israel's NSO Group, who created Pegasus, and Paragon, the makers of graphite, engineer these tools to infiltrate encrypted apps and extract data totally invisibly. Now, the sale and use of these tools is, as you might expect, highly controversial. Security watchdog groups like the Citizen Lab have actually characterized this industry as providing despotism as a service. These incredibly powerful zero-day exploits are frequently sold to governments and intelligence agencies worldwide, and researchers have repeatedly documented their use against journalists, human rights activists, and political dissidents. Okay, knowing all this is out there can be pretty daunting, but let's shift our focus to what you can actually do. Because while zero-click attacks are designed to be invisible, sometimes the spyware does leave a physical footprint on the device. You want to watch out for things like sudden, unusual battery drain, unexpected massive spikes in your data usage, sluggish performance, or if the phone is running abnormally hot for no reason. These can be telltale indicators that malicious processes are running in the background. Now, if you're feeling a little paranoid right now, take a deep breath. It is absolutely crucial to remember that nation-state zero-click exploits like Pegasus are highly targeted and incredibly expensive to deploy. The vast majority of everyday users are not the targets of these specific mercenary tools. However, that doesn't mean we shouldn't build up our digital walls, right? Everyday users can and absolutely should deploy some highly effective practical defenses. So, how exactly do you build up your walls? First and foremost, please don't delay your software updates. The moment a vulnerability is discovered, companies push a patch. Just install it immediately. Second, protect yourself against that social engineering we talked about by simply ignoring unknown callers. Third, lock down all your accounts with two-factor authentication. And finally, consider using a reputable mobile security app to monitor for any strange anomalies. But the absolute crucial point, the ultimate takeaway, is this one daily habit that is highly recommended by security experts and even the NSA. Are you ready? Perform just one device reboot every single day. That's it. Power your phone completely off and turn it back on. Because many of these advanced zero-click exploits exist purely in the phone's temporary memory to avoid leaving files behind, a simple daily reboot can effectively wipe out memory-based malware and break the attacker's connection. It's simple, it's free, and it is incredibly effective. So we've seen that the answer to whether a simple call can hack your phone is a very complex yes, thanks to the intricacies of data parsing and VoIP. But it leaves us with a much bigger thought. As long as we keep demanding more features, more complex data, and these massive super apps in our pockets, we inevitably provide new avenues for attackers. The arms race between cybersecurity defenders and mercenary spyware engineers is happening right now, silently, in the background of the devices we trust the most. So as technology advances, will the invisible threats in our pockets ever truly disappear? Or is this just the new normal? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay secure out there.